Welcome to RaceSpotTV and welcome to 60 Plus Racing Adventures. This is a new season of 60 Plus Racing Adventures, longest running league, the entry level open wheelers, and we have a new car. Into the back of the garage goes the Super Formula Light, and roaring into the sunshine comes the Dallara IL15 Indy Next. David Haynes with Ewan O'Leary to bring you live coverage on RaceSpotTV of 60 Plus Racing Adventures. And we will head towards qualifying for the first of two races tonight, for this is our new season of 60 Plus Racing Adventures, beginning here at Laguna Seca. They'll go to Long Beach, Spa, Virginia, Portland. We'll catch you again on RaceSpotTV at the Red Bull Ring and Indianapolis, Fulton Park, which isn't quite spelt like that, but it's close. Suzuka, Mugello, Barber, and Sebring for a season finale on December 3rd will also be live here on RaceSpotTV. I'm sure, just like me, you can't wait, Ewan.
Yeah, I always like a new car in iRacing and a new series with a new car as well. Although in the real world, it's been around for a while. It's always something to get to grips with for the drivers. When you get a sort of an older car like the Super Formula Lights that people are very comfortable with, very familiar with, sometimes it means that, you know, that the racing's a little bit, you know, worse maybe than a car that is newer to these guys and newer to everybody in terms of how to race it. So yeah, looking forward to a new season in a new car, and good places to start actually at Laguna Seca and Long Beach, because these are exactly the sort of tracks where these cars would have gone around in real life.
Whole swathe of updates and new content, of course, whenever there's a new iRacing season. We are week one of that new season. Everyone's still trying their shiny new toys, new UI for iRacing, all sorts of new content out, and more yet still in the works. This is a pretty short and sharp track here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Just 3.6 kilometers and 11 turns, but all of them challenging and famous. Plenty of elevation change. Feels like around the sand dunes here at times. So in this qualifying session of 10 minutes or 2 flying laps, quite a few of them will get this done quite early. Mike McCormick struggling with a little bit of the sand there.
Yeah, and one of the first, as you say, one of many who are going out straight away down the hill through the corkscrew. One of the big features of this circuit is the rises and falls. But then they're everywhere, really. Bit of a lock-up on the inside front there on turn 10 as well. So now comes into that final corner. Now onto the start-finish line. Got a great sound as well, this car, I must say. Very crackly backfire as well, as we'll hear in a moment, as he gets this big stop down in towards turn number 1. And yeah, it's an opening lap time of a 14.7 for McCormick, but nowhere near close to Greg Garris, who's immediately overtaken by Roberto Catalano, the reigning champion.
That's right, I was going to keep an eye on him, see how he goes in the new car. Victorious in the Super Formula Light last season. Roberto Catalano, like everyone else, has got to adjust to this new Indy Next car. Wolf Olsen will try to square up the traction out of the final corner. Pretty big parachute-looking rear wing on this car, and it looks like the tyres are a little bit wider than some of the other cars we've had in past, like well, this is a step above the Indy Pro 2000 in IndyCar's own ladder. It feels like it's just a little step above the Super Formula Light. Roberto Catalano remains at the top. Oyvind Anderson is going to aim to set a time. Todd Scholl will jump to 5th. Anderson doesn't have one yet. Gerhardus Jorrison, no time yet either. Roberto Catalano sets his second lap and goes 0.2 quicker up top, so that's important for him in that race for pole position. Pete Thomas goes into 5th, and there is a handful of drivers without qualifying time still. I'll tell you what there is, Ewan, there's a handful of Norwegians.
Yeah, there certainly are. It's always been a very popular series with a number of Norwegians we've had down the years in this series, down the seasons. And it does seem that some new life has been injected into this series almost with the new car. Douglas Beasley jumped back to pit lane having gone ninth. There are 25 drivers in this session at the moment ready for this race. I'm not sure how many we had overall last season scoring points, but in entirety maybe about 28, I think, based on the result sheet. So this is a big entry, and maybe one of the biggest fields we've had for some time in this series. So yeah, it's still positive. And it's great that, you know, we've got people from all over the world as well. That's always been a great thing about 60 Plus Racing Adventures.
Absolutely. Roberto Catalano remains up top. John Payne just jumped into second. Paul Stump held that position oh so briefly. Russ Addy here, all of his laps are actually done, but he needs as much time as he can get with the Indy Next car. Gerhardus Jorissen's about to finish a lap that could count, currently sitting in 11th. Jorissen crosses the line and jumps up to 8th, so a good little improvement for him just late on in the session. Everyone who's been out on track has completed 2 flying laps. What we've got is 3 drivers that haven't been out on track or completed a lap. They're all Norwegian. Jan Mervold, Jan Erik Skrefsrud and Kåre Kongsfeldt. So, don't know what they're doing. I wish I knew more about Norway to make some kind of quippy cultural suggestion about what might be occupying them.
Is there any sort of does anything go on specifically at just before 8 o'clock on a Wednesday? I'm not just before 9 o'clock indeed.
Gone through all of my facts about shopping in Sweden, and
yeah,
maybe they have been eaten by a troll.
So we're out of ideas for what could have happened. I mean, you know, it's normally, you know, suggest at this stage that if it's an open qualifying session, then waiting for the end of the session to do your lap times at such a short circuit, it's not out of the question, and not a bad idea either at a circuit like this. But you know, that's not the case here. We have solo qualifying. Just 2 laps is the limit you have as well over the course of 10 minutes. So for some circuits, that will be, it won't constrain anybody at any circuit, but it will be something more thinking about. A couple of weeks at Spa, for example, where we're going to see the third round of this championship. But yeah, there's no real advantage to waiting till the end of the session, I suppose. I think the drivers who are carrying on at the moment just using this as a bit of practice, and there's no reason why not. You know, you can drive for more than 2 laps in this session. It's just that the lap times won't count. So I'm a tiny bit surprised that more people aren't doing that and using it as a bit of a warm-up.
I cannot shake this feeling that the Super Formula Light this Indy Next car really does look like a Super Formula Light that's hit the gym just a little bit. In every single proportion, it's just a tiny bit larger and a tiny bit more muscular. It's a tiny bit more powerful.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Just look at, you know, just a little bit older almost in terms of its life. But yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to see how the actual racing is around this circuit. And I'm not sure how much we're going to actually learn tonight. That's one of the things that's been great to look at so far. The chances of locking up, I feel anyway, are a little bit higher. Although maybe people are just not used to it yet. Again, not sure how much we'll be able to actually learn here, because Laguna Seca is a little bit of a difficult circuit for racing anyway, and so that could make it not very much of a learning curve for us here tonight, and we'll learn more really when we start to get to Spa, because next week at Long Beach is going to be pretty difficult for racing as well.
Okay, here I go reading. Indy Next weapon of choice is the Dallara IL-15. Introduced in 2015, it features 450 base horsepower plus an additional 50 with push to pass, coming out of a turbocharged 2-litre inline 4. The car received updates in 2021, including a halo for driver safety and new engine tuning by AER to run a full season without a rebuild. The latest update to the car came in 2023 when Firestone took over as tyre supplier after Penske's acquisition of the championship, because I think they originally were on Cooper tyres like a lot of the other Road to Indy ladder cars, the PM18, the USF 2000. Very interesting. Think about push to pass. Keep an eye on that, perhaps. Let's look at the grid for race 1 of 2, 60-plus Racing Adventures new season from Laguna Seca. Roberto Catalano, the reigning champion, has made the jump to the new car, and he has adapted perfectly. He'll start on pole. John Payne alongside him. Paul Stump and Russ Addy are 3rd and 4th. Greg Garris will start 5th, and Pete Thomas will start 6th. Todd Scholl in 7th, Gerhardus Jorgensen in 8th, just ahead of his teammate Barry Hills in 9th. Douglas Beasley in 10th, Franz Josef Sturm in 11th, Ulf Olsen is in 12th. Americans Jack Turner and Eugene Clark 13th and 14th, and there's no mistaking that. For Eugene Clark, Stars and Stripes. Boyvind Anderson in 15th, Mike McCormick in 16th, Randy Shoemake in 17th, and Steve O'Malley in 18th. Lee Hellberg, Mike Grandy, Richard Coulomb and JC Hay are the last drivers that set lap times in qualifying. Jan Mervold, Jan Erik Skrefsrud and Cora Kongsfeld did not.
There's the grid lining up just before the penultimate corner, and as you'll notice, it will be a rolling start. Short pace lap, 87 degrees Fahrenheit on the circuit, 31 degrees Celsius. Not too bad for this time of year, middle of spring, middle of April, which is when we are racing this one. 21 laps will be lined up for our first race of 2 here tonight and kicking off a new season.
Do you have any idea what it looks like when these cars are using push to pass? That's something I would like to know. The Porsche pace car is in the pit lane. Roberto Catalano is looking for the green flag, and he is punching it. At least 450 horsepower over the crest at Laguna Seca, down towards the Andretti hairpin for the first time. Good start from all involved. Catalano, Payne, Addy, Stump, Pete Thomas, our top 5. Saw plenty of lockups in qualifying, but everyone seems pretty restrained on their braking for the first of 21 laps in race 1 here at Laguna Seca. Roberto Catalano with that qualifying pace, getting away gently. John Payne now already pressuring him.
Yeah, good early start for John Payne in terms of applying that pressure to Catalano, because there's not a lot you can do actually when you're not in control of the field there. Catalano, if you go early like he did there, you really can't do very much on the alongside him, or indeed on the second row of the grid either. Up over the top of the hill they go now towards the corkscrew and down the other side. It's a very good start for the reigning champion, but a decent start from absolutely everybody. It looks like everybody getting through the first few corners cleanly, including those who started from the back having not qualified. All 25 who were in the server did start.
Seems to be a good start for everyone except Eugene Clark, who has the meatball flag, the mechanical black flag. Don't know how much damage it is on the 73. I guess we're going to learn mechanically about this car. Is it a little bit fragile? Can you easily damage it against sausage curbs or with car-to-car contact or anything like that? Eugene Clark pits, and it's a 56-kilometre-an-hour pit lane here at Laguna Seca, if memory serves, with a very interesting pit exit. There is Clark. I can't look at that and tell you what the damage is. No, couldn't see it.
Looks like one of those cars again where, you know, I saw it I have seen it in a number of open wheelers actually. It's very, very difficult sometimes to actually see the damage that has actually given them a meatball. And actually, if given the free choice, I think some of these drivers would have carried on if they were able to. But obviously, a meatball means you have to come into the pit lane. Catalano there going a little bit wide into the corkscrew.
Yeah, had a little bit of a front lockup as well, pushing on. Something we saw from plenty of drivers in qualifying there, so John Payne senses an opportunity. The both of them are 2 seconds clear of the rest of the field, so it's Catalano, John Payne, and then fresh air. It's now push to pass time for John Payne. I'm reckoning yes. I'm going to say yes. That's what he's gone and done, because John Payne takes the race lead. It's on our timing column. That's great work from RaceSpotTV. John Payne absolutely was using his limited supply of push to pass effectively to get himself into the race lead.
Unfortunately, it's not obvious on the car. It doesn't look like. I was thinking there might be something above the head of the driver, just above the halo, like in the Super Formula, that lights up a little bit when you're on the push to pass. But no, we're going to have to rely on the tower itself to see what's going on in terms of push to pass and who's using it when. Catalano now gets on it, so he wasn't actually using any to try and keep the lead. John Payne was the one using it from second place, but Catalano now feeling that he is needing to use it to try and get on terms with the new race leader.
Great news, I've managed to find the remaining push to pass count. No, that doesn't look accurate. It's put in my timing screen. It's trying to tell me how much is left, but I'm not sure about it. Certainly when they're using it, you will know. When John Payne did use it to great effect. Franz Josef Sturm missed the corkscrew, and he had a slowdown, so that's cost him a couple of positions. He's down 5 from where he started. Eugene Clark, after that pit stop, is down 10 from where he started. Other drivers also had some struggles with the corkscrew. And for Sturm, it's a bit of a spin across the apex that cost him.
He felt that it was going to be dangerous, sat there on the on the inside of that second part of the corkscrew. He was probably right as well. Just about snuck out in front of the rest of that group there, instead of the rest of them piling into the back. Because that may be a bit of a clue as to what the push to pass might be. Anyway, it's a new car and we need to figure out.
I'm seeing some suggestion they might have started with 150 seconds of push to pass in this race. And that's giving an estimation of how much is left, 123 for John Payne. Feels like a lot for this race distance.
Yeah, it does. I don't know whether that's actually changeable from race to time, but that's nearly 7 seconds of push to pass a lap. Now, at a circuit like Spa in 2 weeks' time, or Monza, where we ended, we're not going there this season, but where we ended last season in the Super Formula Lights, that would be not enough, you might add, 7 seconds. But around a circuit like this, that's going to be quite constraining, really. Oh, dear!
Oh, no. Paul Stump.
Paul Stump. Oh, dear.
Turn 4, he's been pushing on, gone a little bit wide, got the outside tyres in the grass and spun immediately to the inside. Him and Russ Addy and some of the others have begun to put some pressure on Roberto Catalano, who dropped away from John Payne. Payne had a 3-ish second race lead. This for Paul Stump. Into turn 4. A little bit wide, no problem with the sausage curb on the apex, just a tiny bit wide through the corner. And, well, there is lots of horsepower in this car.
Yeah, I think that's what, makes it a little bit different in some ways to the Super Formula Lights, that, it wasn't impossible to spin that car up out of a corner, but certainly looks like this car is more powerful and therefore more likely to spin on the exit, although that's the first we've seen of that so far. Didn't see any of it in qualifying. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. Doesn't mean we're going to see any more of it before the end of this race, but it does seem to have quite a nice mix, actually, between drivability but also biting if you do get it a little bit wrong.
Yeah, so far, from what I see, I think I like it. John Payne certainly likes it. His race pace was strong immediately, giving himself a lead over Roberto Catalano, the reigning champion of 60-plus racing adventures. Miss Addy still in third. We lost Paul Stump from fourth. Now Pete Thomas, a relatively new name, at least to my lips, is up into fourth place. A new season, a new car, and of course, more people turn 60 every year. Greg Garrison, Todd Scholl, 5th and 6th. Those teammates have got themselves a new car, and memory serves, they were our team's champion as well.
We had a great end to the season as far as the team's championship was concerned at Monza, don't forget, in the Super Formula Lights Championship, drawing to a close just a couple of weeks ago now. The Temple of Speed, but back again for a new season, and yeah, I've got to say I'm enjoying this car quite as well, enjoying the feel that we're getting as well. It turned out more people as we'd expect, as Franz Josef Sturm here heads down the inside into the final turn. turn. That's a pass on Ovid Anderson into that final corner. And so up to 13th.
Yeah, Sturm coming back through the field after that spin at the corkscrew. If I open too many corkscrews, my head starts spinning. That's the problem that I have. But Sturm's back through the field. He actually picked up a couple of positions. So he got one from Paul Stump, crashing out. I think he got another one just before Oyvind Anderson. He was 5 minutes down on his starting grid. He's now only -2 for the race, with plenty still to happen. Lap 7 of 22. Catalano's pulled a couple of tenths back out of John Payne. So Payne had about a 2.5 second lead. Now back down to 1.5. Roberto Catalano has found his push to pass button. But John Payne is on his as well.
That last lap was a lot better from Catalano. Well, I say a lot better from Catalano. It's probably actually Payne going a bit slower that time, 14.0. But yeah, Catalano does need to get on the button a little bit more because he's not really been using it so far. And I feel that is one of the reasons why he lost the lead, actually, because John Payne was on it pretty much from the word go, and Catalano just wasn't really in terms of using that push to pass. See it again here. Payne's just using it in small bursts and these small straights that you get at this circuit. And Catalano just isn't really using it, and now he does towards the next corner. So there's no real consistency there in terms of using it or not. Maybe using it in the right places is not quite being utilised at the moment from Catalano, as Kongsfeld unfortunately has had some drama here and going very slowly across the start-finish line there.
Yeah, that is a live picture right there of the driver who's already a lap down. So I think experienced multiple problems like that to this point, surely. Richard Coulom's picked up a meatball flag, so we have another victim. And he has towed to pit lane just as Paul Stump did, so probably something pretty significant. Teammates Garris and Scholl are on the push to pass on the front straight. Running 5th and 6th. This is a look for Steve O'Malley. United Colours of Benetton. And he's gone and shed his nose like a backwards lizard.
Oh, he's got some front right suspension damage as well. Oh, has he? Maybe not, actually. Maybe his wheel was just off the ground because of the sort of strange angle that he was at the very steep part of the racetrack. But we've seen this car bite a couple of times now, and we'll continue to see that, I would imagine, as we head towards the second half of this race. There's a bit of a clip on the curb from Grandy, but it's not so punishing that it threw him immediately into the wall there, despite a fairly significant clip of the curb on the inside there.
I'm watching his steering wheel at the same time that I watch all the information available to me to know if you see on the steering wheel from a spectator's position when push to pass is active. Well, a whole bunch of smoke is active. That'll definitely be a slowdown from the other driver. So Grandy will get this position. Douglas Beasley will have to cede at least that spot. Look, he's going to lurk up on the back of them. And Josef Sturm's not too far away. And they've got the lap down Paul Stump just behind them immediately as well. Oh no, Beasley!
Oh, when it rains it pours, and on this lap it has been pouring, unfortunately, for Douglas Beasley. He's now reversed out of the wall, but perhaps the wrong way, although he could switch it round like that, and there you go, using the power. Oh dear, he has certainly got damage now though, and he's realised that as he pulls away. He is towing back to pit lane, and that is that. Again, on the power, little bit of curb, little bit of AstroTurf, but the others were out there as well. It was just a little bit of a heavy right foot, and this car will punish you for that. It is good to see that balance between not overly impossible to drive this car, but not overly easy either.
This is our gap, first and second. Catalano on that push to pass. Yeah, it's closing him a fair bit. He's pulled 2 or 3 tenths by dipping into that. Got himself back within a second of the race lead. John Payne and Catalano still head and shoulders clear of the rest. Russ Addy back in third. His fastest lap of the race is 8 tenths shy of these two. And Catalano's been eating that push to pass.
When? I mean, I feel like I've been looking at it for fairly often. I haven't seen him on the button too much, especially compared to John Payne.
He's
but
on it now.
Catalano, yeah, there he is again. That's the. Well, I'm not sure that's totally accurate. Was that 5 seconds of push to pass there? But anyway, whatever it is, it will be accurate in a scale to each other. If you see what I mean. So he's probably got 3 times less at the moment than Payne has. Whatever the amount of seconds to go is, he has probably got a lot less. And yeah, if he doesn't know that, then obviously that's understandable. But if he does know that, then what is he doing going through all of the push to pass here in the first half of this race? Still 11 laps to go.
They're both on it this time around, crossing the halfway point of race 1. It makes sense. Catalano's gotten a whole bunch of time back on John Payne. Just trying to get that pressure on rather than wait till too late in the race. Rosati doesn't feel much pressure in 3rd. Pete Thomas not feeling much in 4th. Greg Garris and Todd Scholl 5th and 6th have both been using up all of their savings of push to pass. Now top 10 completed by Gerhardus Joris and Barry Hills, Ulf Olsen and Mike McCormick. At the moment, the biggest mover in the race is Mike Grandy in 11th, who started 20th, but now runs up in that 11th spot.
It's John Payne again on the push to pass, just trying to get away from Catalano, and he needs to as well, because as they put a lap on Jan Mervold there, Payne definitely lost a bit of time in relation to the reigning champion, and that's closed the gap now to just half a second, approaching 10 laps to go in this race. This is a replay meantime. Oh, Kara Kongsfeld going straight on before actually turning in for the corkscrew even.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there was some pedals problems going on or something. In the case for Kongsfeld, a few other drivers that have skipped the chicane there that they don't have as much of an excuse, I don't think. It's an incredibly challenging braking zone. You've seen that these cars seem, with the speeds that they've got, the downforce levels that they've got, they're also incredibly stiff in their suspension, and they're lifting that inside left tyre like Steve O'Malley has very, very easily. It doesn't take much elevation change, and the stiff front suspension is raising the inside left. Roberto Catalano might be out of push to pass now, having closed in John Payne. But he has used it more recently than John Payne.
He has, yeah. But, you know, it's entirely possible that Payne may have had this race in hand anyway, because he does look very quick in comparison to Catalano. But keep an eye on that top left of the screen here and just see if he goes for it again, whether that's false, what we're seeing on the screen there, that he's got no seconds left. Oh, no, that was it. That was it there. I think he just used the last burst of it there. You saw it flash up very, very briefly. He had a fraction of a second left, and he just used it there. But, you know, if he realised that's what's going on and continued on with it anyway, I mean, it's not very great management, is it, of the push to pass itself, to run out with 9 laps still to go there.
It's very, very polite, letting the other driver merge. Oh, you, JC Hay. Exactly what Corda Kongsfeld wanted. That's why my usual advice in that situation is aim behind the car, because it's more likely to drive forward than it is to drive backwards. You see another car spinning, I normally aim for behind it rather than thinking I'm going to beat it in front. It's a bit of a Ponzi scheme really between Payne and Catalano, because you can keep up all the appearances by burning through a lot of that push to pass early, and then once it runs out, are we going to see that gap open up? Rosati now, a little sloppy last lap, a little sloppy this lap. Pete Thomas is closing in with the chance of a podium.
Yeah, very strong drive for the opening round of the season for Pete Thomas so far. Rosati, though, again using a bit of push to pass. Thomas responds with a little bit more. 89 seconds to 117. This is a bit better management, although they do sort of need to start getting on with getting through some of the push to pass now, because you don't want to leave seconds on the table when you've got the possibility to use them in these 22 laps.
I don't leave seconds on the table.
Same.
leave anything on the table. Thomas has got a little bit more in his back pocket for this battle. I think the braking seems to be something that they've been struggling with. This is faster than a lot of the other cars we've had in this championship in past. They're arriving at big speed into some of these braking zones, and see, that's fine from Russ Addy, but we are seeing plenty of smoke off the front tyres, and they are long and difficult braking zones.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's now the challenge, I think, for Thomas actually finding a way past on this circuit, which is, you know, down to a pure racing thing, really. Take everything about the new car out of the equation, the push to pass. There it does show on the steering wheel when he's on the push to pass. That's quite helpful. But yeah, it's a pure racing thing now. At this circuit, can you make your way past? We all know that that's very, very difficult. These two have got a very similar level of push to pass. So, you know, it can almost take all the other factors out of the equation now. It is the two drivers against one another for the last 7 laps to decide who's going to be on the last step of the podium in the first race of the season.
Looks like John Payne has just set a new fastest lap of the race, 1:12.6. A couple of tenths slower, but still with him. Plenty of battles going to be throughout the field in the first race with the Dallara IL-15 for 60 Plus Racing Adventures, the car they're going to be using in this championship this season. There is the race leader with a little bit of traffic that Roberto Catalano is also going to encounter, but not having to pass to try to help him by, it seems. Russ Addy battling Pete Thomas for 3rd, Todd Scholl battling Greg Garris for 5th, Mike McCormick battling Mike Brandy for 10th and 11th. And I think that was JC Hay and Eugene Clark battling each other that just went a lap down to our leaders. That always makes things it's complicated. This is that battle for the podium spots once again, where it seems that Russ Addy has 77 seconds of push to pass remaining, and Pete Thomas has got 90. Well done to our producer Ramiro, who looks like maybe he's been digging through the vault for plenty of graphics to keep updated on how they're playing, who's got how many substitutions left.
Yes, indeed. You see these two have got very, very similar in the way of push to pass them out, and there they go again on the button. I guess it is a second, isn't it? It's just about a second, I suppose, for each. Early on I was looking at it and thinking, sort of speculating whether it some other sort of unit of time, but anyway, it's definitely seconds. It's definitely similar between the two of them, but 5 laps to go now as they go over the start-finish line. 5 divided by 75 is about 15, so 15 seconds per lap of Laguna Seca. That's about 1/5 of the lap, a little bit more than that. A long time to be on the button here. You know, they've left a lot of this for quite late on.
Yeah, of course, there's always 2 schools of thought for how to do push to pass. Should it be, you know, 10 presses of the button and each press is 3 seconds? Or is it a number of seconds and you can do it in little bursts or hold the button down or whatever it may be? I think IndyCar and its predecessors were typically about a number of seconds of push to pass, and that seems like what we're getting out of this car. Which car was it that I used to drive that had push to pass on iRacing and you just had 10 of them for the race? I think that's how the IndyCar used to work. But clearly this is how that kind of thing should work. And we may be updating these kind of systems to how they actually work, just like hybrids on GTPs, all coming out of the corkscrew. An opportunity for Pete Thomas to get to Russ Addy's inside, but he thinks maybe not this time. But if not now, then when? John Payne crosses the start-finish line for 4 laps to go, with Roberto Catalano 1.4 seconds behind him. If not now, then when? And Pete Thomas has been using more of that push to pass. He had a bunch in his back pocket, but now he doesn't anymore compared to Russ Addy.
Yeah. It's very, very even. It has remained very even between the two of them in so many ways in their battle for 3rd position. And it remains the closest battle on the circuit. The first signs last lap that Russ Addy was not caving to the pressure, but certainly just feeling it. as Pete Thomas got behind him. Another bit of push to pass here by Thomas being used, and now he's actually going over the 15 seconds per lap being used. You can see he's down at 44 seconds. He's got to try and make the pass while he's doing this. If this is going to be a strategy, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, putting pressure on and using it up early, but you've got to make the pass while you're in the ascendancy. And here he comes on the way to the corkscrew again.
Oh, a spin from Addy. Pete Thomas gets through into third. Thomas had a really good run up the hill, was immediately on the push to pass, and that had Addy looking in his mirrors. It had him offline going into the corkscrew, and then a lock-up from Addy. A little bit of a spin that Pete Thomas successfully avoids. Yannick Skrefsrud has had a problem there. So is his fellow countryman, Oyvind Anderson, who has been disqualified. Now, I don't know how, driving backwards? Because if you had a slowdown that you didn't serve, it would give you a drive-through penalty rather than straight to a disqualification. So it's got to be for driving backwards as the most likely thing. Or are we incident points again, mayhaps? Another thing to think about with 3 laps to go.
17.
This is a look at the pass for the podium.
Yeah, sorry. This is Rossetti's spin. I said it at the time, Pete Thomas had to make the move. In the end, he didn't actually have to make an overtake. He just had to force Rossetti into a mistake, and he ended up doing exactly that. So good driving in the end from Thomas, actually, to first of all force the mistake, but also avoid the car that was stricken in the middle of the road, pretty much, coming into the corkscrew there. And he slipped through into third place. Now he's just got to hold that advantage with the extra seconds he's got. Same for John Payne. He's got 32 seconds, 30-odd seconds as he crosses the line. Catalano's kept pace with him quite nicely, actually, but it's going to be very hard for him to pass it with that push to pass going the other way.
Now just save it for the final lap and just push to pass every straight, set the lap record. I'm looking at remaining push to pass, and Catalano 0, Greg Garris 0, JC Hay 0, Ulf Olsen 150. So I don't think word reached us late that this car has got push to pass. Word maybe hasn't reached all of the drivers yet. Or John Payne, it's nice having it to work through the traffic.
It has really helped him working through the traffic, actually. I was going to mention it earlier on.
Oh, Catalano's off. No, he's had a problem with the traffic. Pete Thomas, how far behind is he? Will he come through to second place? Perhaps not if Catalano has no damage. I only caught the tail end of it. I saw 2 cars sideways in the braking zone for the corkscrew. John Payne with push to pass to try to cut his way through the traffic, and it's more dramas for Catalano.
Dear. Well, that was a lap car going past. The lap car there trying to stay out of the way. Just it doesn't at all.
Had no idea which way he was going, and then has misjudged the braking, and Catalano's done nothing wrong there.
And that's exactly why we say it all the time, actually, in endurance racing and things like that. But actually, it's the case here as well. As you say, no idea where he's going, really. That's why you stay on the racing line. You hold your line as a slower driver being lapped. Because if you don't, then it creates problems like this, which has affected the battle for the race lead. I think they would have finished in this order anyway, Payne ahead of Catalano, but who's to know what could have happened on the final lap and a half.
And it is the final lap of the race now for John Payne. Oh, he's using the push to pass everywhere. Up the hill, he gives a 5-6 second bite of it. Good line through the corkscrew. There's a little bit more gravel on the racetrack there because it's been dragged back on. But I reckon out the final corner, he'll push all of it towards victory in the Dallara IL-15 for its first outing in 60-plus racing adventures. Roberto Catalano was on pole, but in racing conditions, John Payne has looked perfect. He's on the push to pass, straight towards the checkered flag. 500 horsepower in this Dallara IL-15, and he sets a new fastest lap of the race, using up his push to pass on the final lap. Roberto Catalano will still join him on the podium, ahead of Pete Thomas by the looks of things.
Yeah, great drive from John Payne. You can see he timed it rather well. He just kept a bit of push to pass back to use if he had to on the last laps. In the end, he didn't have to because Catalano was taken out late on, which is very unfortunate indeed. But the way this series works, there'll be another race in a moment where qualifying begins. It will begin in about 20 minutes' time, half an hour's time. The qualifying session itself, another 10 minutes with 2 laps. And each evening, your best result only is taken forward, not both races. So already, John Payne has secured himself a race winner's score. Now he can ensure that it's only he with a race winner's score by doubling up tonight in a few moments' time.
So as the field crosses the checkered flag, John Payne takes his first win of the season, perhaps outfoxing, outplaying, outsmarting Roberto Catalano a little bit in this new car. Pete Thomas on the podium just ahead of Russ Addy, Todd Scholl, Greg Garris, Barry Hills, Gerhardus Jorrison, Mike McCormick and Mike Grandy as our top 10. It says Ulf Olsen still has all 150 seconds of his push to pass left. He just held off Franz Josef Sturm, and Jack Turner was the last car to finish on the lead lap. Quick lap here of lap times just over a minute at Laguna Seca, in this car at least. Leif Hellberg in 14th, Randy Shoemake 15th, and Eugene Clark 16th. JC Hay used all of his push to pass. Steve O'Malley had 7 seconds left. Paul Stump apparently had all of his 150. Jan Mervold 2 laps down with his as well. Jan Erik Skrefsrud, Cora Kongsfell, Oyvind Anderson, Douglas Beasley and Richard Coulomb. Our last drivers. Everyone started. Coulomb ended up parking it, I guess, just a couple of laps in. We learned a lot as that went on. I think the drivers learned a lot as that went on. Let's see if we can have a chat to a couple of them, Ewan.
Absolutely. Sorry, I thought nobody was there. I just need to scroll down. Let's chat to the race winner, shall we? First of all, John Payne, who wins the first race of the season. John, welcome in. Congratulations on your first race win of the season in the first race of the season. I think first things first, on a new season with a new car. How is it around Laguna Seca to drive? How are you enjoying this new machine?
We're all learning this car, but I think most of us love it. It's just such a change from the SFL we were used to running. Much more twitchy, much more throttle control, push to pass. There's just all sorts of new things to figure out on this thing.
And in terms of this race, you utilised the push to pass, it seemed to me, to get past Roberto Catalano and then stay in front of him as well. How much of a factor do you feel the push to pass seconds were throughout that race, and how crucial to your victory?
Well, once I got past him, I was pretty judicious on the use of it to just try to see. I wanted to have it at the end, but he was pressuring me the whole time, and in my mind I was like, is he using his? So I better use mine. I mean, you just you don't know what they're doing, but I had plenty left, and at the end I just burned it all up on that last lap.
Yeah, we saw you utilising that last lap to take the fastest lap of the race. So congratulations on that, as well as the race win as well, of course. And good luck for the second race coming up in a few moments' time.
Yeah, I'll try to qualify a little bit better. So I don't think I'll catch Roberto sleeping again on that first second that push to pass is available.
We'll find out. But yeah, good luck for that second session, and we'll see you there.
All right, thanks.
Thanks very much, John Payne, the race winner tonight, David, from Laguna Seca in race number 1. Roberto Catalano could also join us from second place as well.
Sure can. The reigning champion, the driver who started from pole position, Roberto Catalano, finishes the race in second place. Hello, Roberto.
Hello. It's a very fun race. I have not too many friends on the grid. I think. No, I was out by our lap, but it happens.
I think I need to learn Italian. You might need to learn some Norwegian. That might help you.
Yes. It's a fun race. I do the pole position, I don't think that because John is fastest than me, but no push to pass, and in the qualify I got the pole. On the race, he's more fast than me. He learned the push to pass before me, and it's correct that John win. Only my fault. It's on 2 lap at the end that I cannot finish the race how I want. It's only this.
Well, we look forward to race 2 because everyone learns about the car, and maybe John Payne will also be a little bit better in race 2.
The only hope for me is that John do a mistake, but it's very difficult. On this car there are more power, and I think there are more skill gap. Too much overtake for overlap. It's a problem, I think. And too much push to pass. 150 push to pass. It's too much, I think.
Yeah, it did seem like a lot. Ewan did the calculations. How many seconds per lap, Ewan?
No, I think 2-3 tenths, I think.
Ewan, you worked out how many seconds of push to pass per lap?
Yeah, about just under 7 per lap.
Ah, okay.
In terms of
okay.
the amount of pressing you need to do. I mean, not in terms of the time gain.
Okay. No, in this track, I think that only 2 times we will use push to pass, and it's too much. 150.
Certainly seems like we agree. Thank you for coming to chat, Roberto. Congratulations, pole position, and go well race 2.
Thank you. Bye.
All very interesting to hear from our drivers and confirming some of the things we were looking at and thinking about as far as this brand new car, Ewan.
Yeah, exactly. It's good to hear from a driver's inside point of view. I don't know about you, but I haven't driven this new car yet. In fact, I've not watched very much Indy Lights racing actually, back when it was called that or whatever. Yeah, it was very interesting first race. Again, I think it's a great place to start this week and next week. Laguna Seca and Long Beach being circuits that do suit this car, I would say, quite well. And yeah, that is a real good place to start. But everybody's learning. I think we had a good opening race certainly. So a lot to look forward to in race number 2 coming up shortly.
It's interesting to me, Roberto Catalano's pole time in qualifying was 1:12.1, and with push to pass in the race, John Payne's best lap was a 1:12.4. I wonder if that whole boost is available the whole time in qualifying. Again, things to think about, and we've got one more race to figure it out here for 60 Plus Racing Adventures on RaceSpotTV. Stick with us, we'll be back with qualifying and race 2 of this opening round. at Laguna Seca with RaceSpotTV and 60 plus racing adventures for our first round in a brand new car, the Dallara IL15. It's giving us interest, intrigue, and it has shaken up this championship. Reigning champion Roberto Catalano started race 1 from pole position, but John Payne overtook him and leads the championship at this first step. There's one more race to come, and before we go racing again, we'll go qualifying again. David Haynes with Ewan O'Leary here to take you all through it. Race 1 really got me excited to see them all go do it again and what everyone's learnt, Ewan.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the first time that these guys have raced this car in a competitive league, as it were, or it likely is anyway. This car was only released last week in week 13. This is the first round of a new season. They'll hopefully have learned a little bit. Hopefully everybody's assigned a button to do their push to pass now. I think we only had one driver not to do that this time. Either forget or not assign a button to it. Everybody will have figured that kind of thing out now. And be a little bit more experienced, but there are still going to be things that catch these guys out, especially when you compare it to the Super Formula Lights. These guys have not been driving this car for very long at all, and so that sort of residual practice is just not there yet.
Might have been 3 or 4 drivers that still had 150 seconds of push to pass left at the end of race 1. Ulf Olsen was one for sure, but our drivers up the front had worked it out. John Payne was maybe just a little bit quicker to it. So they're going qualifying right now. That track conditions are all incredibly mild. See who will start on the front row this time. Can Catalano keep his 1 lap pace? Or has John Payne been uncorked? We're about to see Paul Stump or Russ Addy find a bit of pace.
Yeah, it definitely seemed that in the previous race that Payne and Catalano were probably the quickest drivers. We'll follow them in qualifying again here to see if they do it again. But you've got to remember that this is a circuit where off-tracks are not too difficult to find. Qualifying is a very important session at this circuit, but it's not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination either. You can very easily dip a couple of wheels off onto the sand, and that will be the end of that. So you've got to be very, very wary of that when you are qualifying. And so we'll see who comes out on top in this 1 lap qualifying session, or on 1 lap pace, sorry. They'll have 2 laps to try it as John Payne and Catalano, roughly at the same part of the circuit, get themselves underway.
He's found a new livery, has he? Roberto Catalano, between race 1 and race 2.
This is Payne.
Looks like it.
This is Payne. There's Catalano.
Yeah, there. So it is. So it is. McCormick a little bit further around on track than all of them.
Oh.
Still got.
Sorry, Catalano spins out of the corkscrew. And that's what I mentioned about qualifying. You only get 2 laps here, and he's effectively canned one of them now. That's not going to count. It's not going to be fast either. And so Catalano has to rebuild and go again.
John Payne's first lap doesn't count either, though. Mike McCormick's up the top from Greg Garrison, JC. Hey, Barry Hill slots into second. So John Payne and Roberto Catalano, the front row from race 1, both encountering problems on their first flying lap of qualifying.
That was pretty close to disaster through turn 3 as well for Payne that time round, as he was getting on the power, just squeezing on the throttle. He spoke to us a little bit about that added need for throttle control after his race 1 victory a few moments ago. And he's right on the limit there as well as he comes through the fast left-hander now up the hill towards the top of the hill, towards the corkscrew. This is where it went wrong for Catalano.
Yeah, it's a super tough braking zone for these cars. Paul Stump will go to the top, completing his first lap. But this is so important for John Payne that he gets this lap complete cleanly. 1 more braking zone into the final elbow. Tiny bit wide, and traction can be difficult on the exit there, but he'll straighten it up, and we'll see what John Payne can do. A 1:12.9 to beat, and he goes a 1:12.5 that doesn't count. John Payne will be starting last of the qualified cars with at least 15 ahead of him.
That is huge news for this race. As I mentioned earlier, he's already banked race-winning points tonight, but he can prevent others from getting the same. So he's not going to be able to in a position to do that anymore. And Roberto Catalano, meantime, goes to the top of the standings with a 12.6. He has got his second lap together a lot cleaner, and based on the pace of the previous race, you'd expect that he will be able to drive away from the likes of Paul Stump in race 2, just like he did in race 1, and he'll surely be favourite now to take this second race victory of the evening.
Thought pole was a 12.1 for race 1, so there could be a bit more time out there to be found. Paul Stump could find it. Russ Addy could find it. Mike Grandy, obviously, will find some level of improvement here if he sets a clean lap out of the final corner. Oh no, Paul Stump is not going to complete his second lap. So no improvement for Stump. Mike Grandy across the line into 11th.
Yeah, I'm not sure there is going to be anybody with laps left, to be honest, to overtake Catalano. Maybe I've got a bit too early on that, but it just feels to me like those who are most likely to jump over him here are complete for the session. Todd Scholl currently in 3rd place. It's a relatively similar look to the front of the field, I suppose, but the big miss is race 1 winner John Payne, who will be pretty frustrated with himself that he didn't get that lap in first or second time round.
At the moment he's 20th. Bruce Poole, Jan Mervold, Jan-Erik Skrefsrud and Cora Kongsfell won't set lap times, so I think our grid is locked in. No one is on track and no one has laps remaining. Wolf Olsen finding the track limits. Will he find the push pass button? Beg my pardon, or however you say that. Oyvind Anderson could still improve. He's still got a lap left, I think.
Oh, well, not anymore.
I'm sorry, Oyvind.
We may have to take some responsibility there, but there you go. He jumps off into the sand, and he'll use the remainder of the session maybe for practice as he carries on anyway.
So as I was saying, no one left can improve.
Yeah, you were right. Yeah, because Oyvind Anderson can't either. I'm not entirely sure how many have not come through from that first session to the second. I think it's only Richard Cullum, isn't it, who's not gone through into this session. We've still got 24 on the grid for this one. 5 of them not having set times yet, only 19, which is less actually than what we saw from 22 out of 25 we got in race 1.
So I'm increasingly leaning towards this car does have a qualifying boost trim. I think they're 500 horsepower in qualifying, 450 in the race, but with 50 more as push to pass. Peak speeds have been 253 kilometers an hour, which is moving in qualifying.
But do you think that lines up with the fact that the fastest lap of the previous race was actually faster than Catalano's current pole time? Does that match up, I guess, to the fact that Paul Stump would have been using... John Payne would have been using the push to pass all the way around on that last lap. Does that match up with the fact that they might have a little bit more extra horsepower just as standard in qualifying trim for these cars?
Well, the pole for the last race was a 12.1, and then the fastest lap of the race was a 12.4. We're currently at pole of a 12.6 here, so I guess we'll see what happens in the race. The thing I've just been keeping my eye on to try to inform me has been the end of straight speed, which was not any higher in the race than it was in qualifying.
Yeah, I guess that does sort of line up in a sense, but you know, it's quite interesting that at the end of the race that they can go quite so quickly towards the finish. I mean, we'll see though as we get ready for race number 2. Here's the grid.
Roberto Catalano has locked out pole positions from Laguna Seca in the Dallara IL-15 in the new season of 60 Plus Racing Adventures. But alongside him on the front row will be Paul Stump this time. Todd Scholl, good qualifying in 3rd, and Mike McCormick comes to grips with the new car to qualify 4th. Barry Hills in 5th and Franz Josef Sturm in 6th. Wolf Olsen in 7th and Garris in 8th. Gerhardus Jorrison in 9th and Eugene Clark in 10th. Mike Grandy has qualified 11th ahead of Russ Addy, Steve O'Malley and Randy Shoemake. Evan Anderson's second lap didn't net him the improvement he was looking for, but his first lap gave him 15th on the grid. JC Hay in 16th, Jack Turner in 17th, and Douglas Beasley in 18th. Jerry Kerr was the last driver to set a qualifying time in 19th. I can confidently tell you John Payne will line up out of 20th ahead of Jan Mervold and the rest of the contingent of drivers that didn't set qualifying times. Clicky. Bruce Poole, Jan Mervold, Jan Erik Skresrud, and Cora Kongsfeld.
Yeah, it does seem that the same drivers didn't qualify again, maybe as a strategy almost to start from the back of the field. Not too much point putting yourself in the middle and putting yourself in the danger zone coming in towards the first big braking zone of this race. But, you know, it was a very clean opening lap, I've got to say, last time round. Hopefully it's the same here, despite the fact it's one of those turn ones, or turn 2 as it technically is here, that you really fear on the brakes into that hairpin. And so, yeah, let's see how we get on second time round, but I'm hoping it will be as clean as first time round.
Well, last weekend, Norway came third in the World Tram Driver Championship. They are not third in the 60-plus Racing Adventures qualifying. They are 3 of them, the tail of the grid. We're going to get rolling on the formation lap. Another 22-lap race, and every driver is once again loaded up with 150 seconds of push to pass. Quickly, Ewan, when did it seem like the push to pass became available? It didn't seem like it was on the first lap.
No, although maybe people were just hesitant to do it immediately. We'll keep an eye on it this time round on the tower on the left-hand side, which you can see here on RaceSpot. We have an indication as to when these guys are using it. Let's see if they are even allowed, or indeed if anybody does on this opening lap, that run to the line.
22 laps at Laguna Seca. Roberto Catalano on pole. Paul Stump from second. We are rolling up to speed. Gerhardus Jorrison hasn't had a great race start wherever he was. Tough braking zone down at the bottom of the hairpin, and it is for Oyvind Andersen as he is off the road and running through the gravel. Made contact with another driver, JC Hay potentially. So dramas at the Andretti hairpin on the opening lap, but not for Roberto Catalano. He leads us. John Payne's already made 4 positions, 20th on the grid. He's up into 16th. This is what happened for Anderson. Oh.
Well, that was strange, I must say. A little bit strange. As JC Hay loses his front right tyre, it took him about 20 seconds longer to tow back to pit lane. I guess he thought he might be able to drive it back, but Anderson there, maybe a little bit recklessly coming down the inside and got all out of control there over the top of the hill.
Here's Anderson on the race start. There's still a lane to the inside. Kind of before he cut across there, I thought. He kind of preemptively ended up in a weird spot on the racetrack, did Oyvind Anderson.
It's an interesting one. Interesting why JC Hay was going so slowly on that line as well, because the speed difference between the two of them looked very, very pronounced indeed. You are right, by the way, that it's not allowed to use push to pass on lap number 1, because on our graphics the push to pass had a dash next to it as if to say there was none, but it has just appeared at 150 seconds for everybody now, so you are correct. Lap 1 is an out of bounds part of the race for those push to pass.
Roberto Catalano hits a little bit now, heading up straight. 1.3 seconds clear of Paul Stump. Here's John Payne. Qualifying did not go the way he wanted, so he started 20th, but he was 16th by the end of lap 1. He's 13th now, and he's beginning to think about dipping into his push to pass, but he hasn't just yet. Ahead of him, the battle is on. Oh, and now the battle is off the road for Randy Shoemaker and Mike Grandy, who both have slowdown penalties. So this will help John Payne to gain even more positions. He's up into 12th and looking at 11th by the end of the second lap, just ahead of him, Mike Grandy. So John Payne dives down the inside of the final corner, gets ahead. He's going to try to square up the exit.
Wow.
Does he find the push to pass button this time? He doesn't.
Randy uses it instead to roll straight back past you. And I do understand in a sense John
Meatball
Payne
for
not
John
using
Payne.
it in these moments.
How does John Payne have a meatball flag? Oh, floor damage? It's got to be.
I mean, that is the problem sometimes with these meatballs these days. It hasn't always been a thing in these open wheels, but I feel it's become a little bit more. See if we can see any contact here, maybe. I don't think there is any there. It must be floor damage or something. That, I think it has got a little bit more sensitive in the last couple of seasons of iRacing, this meatball flag business, because there's nothing visibly wrong, even when we were riding on board there with John Payne's car. And, he's going to have to come in and serve a very costly penalty.
We'll be thankful that he got the chocolates in race 1, because race 2 has been very difficult for him. No chocolates, only meatballs. I think he knows what's up. He might be pulling out of the way unless he had a problem at the corkscrew.
Now he comes in. Might as well. And we'll see whether he carries on here. He's not coming in with any sense of urgency, is he? As they go through this very tight pit entry at Laguna Seca on the way in. Pretty unusual, as you mentioned before, on the way out as well. Pretty much the only way he can do it, really, and do it safely. So, yeah, a big shame, but as you mentioned, it's good that he got the points in from race number 1. The only problem is, he's not really going to gain anything on Catalano, because Catalano is currently leading this race. But then again, it's better than it would be in another sort of situation in a different series where both races count towards the score, because Payne obviously will be losing hand over fist here compared to Catalano if this race counted for him as well as the last one.
Randy Shoemaker also with a meatball flag. I don't know exactly what's going on. Maybe at the start of the race on low tyre pressures, they're a bit low, liable to damage the floor. This is the Fulton, Rossetti, Eugene Clark battle, and it's not going to be a Greg Garris battle. He's in the wall on the inside, but you know what he doesn't have? Okay, now he's got him.
I was going to say.
Pressure on Rossetti, looking to go around the outside of Wolf Olsen. It can work at that hairpin sometimes, but it won't this time.
Can give you the inside for the next couple of turns as there's a lap car there, stopped, tries to hit everybody's way. Pretty heavy contact for Greg Garris, just a little bit heavy on the right foot, and there you go, embedded in the wall. You've all seen an open wheeler do that at some point. Oh, and it's actually got himself embedded inside of it there. But doesn't matter whether he's embedded inside of it or not, he's got pretty big damage. In fact, big enough that he has to tow back to pit lane anyway.
Mike Randy in 10th place. Got that battle ahead of him, Eugene Clark. Russ Addy still knocking at the door of Ulf Olsen. Randy just a little bit wide, visually incredibly difficult through the corkscrew to settle and know where you are. Addy on Olsen. Olsen still hasn't touched any of his push to pass. Russ Addy is touching grass.
A little bit as he runs wide there. Barry Hills now goes for a spin. Oh, and he's been in the wall as well. Coming out the final corner, that's 2 cars now in 2 laps to have nosed it in the barriers, and Barry Hills pulls off to the side of the circuit, contemplating whether he's going to be able to get that car back again. In any case, he's not going to be able to get back on the road again for a moment because the car's coming, and now he tows back to pit lane. That is another big shame there, but let's go back to that onboard we were having a couple of moments ago. I must say these cars don't look particularly enjoyable to try and get turned in for the corkscrew. That looked pretty clumsy, to be honest, on the way in there.
So here's Barry Hills at the final corner, part of this group. That's traction on the curb, isn't it?
I think, it's less the AstroTurf and the curb itself causing it. It's just a bit of overexcitement on the throttle, but, it's just being exacerbated slightly more by the curb and the AstroTurf there as well, because we've seen even some of the sausage curves being clipped through the faster corners in race 1. We definitely were riding on board when that happened a couple of occasions, and this car didn't get sent around immediately, so it's a combination of factors there, I feel.
Russ Addy moments ago, top of the hill at the corkscrew, almost running up the back of Ulf Olsen. Losing a little bit of time to that. Russ Addy is one of the bigger position gainers in this race, though, having qualified 13th. He runs 7th, and he's looking at 6th place for the moment. Jack Turner and Douglas Beasley have both gained 7 spots. Jan Mervold is +9 for the moment, with Bruce Poole just behind him. Only retirement looks to be JC Hay, it looks like. John Payne got through the lane and has gotten back out. Randy Shoemake got through the lane and has come back out. Greg Garris, Oyvind Anderson, and Cora Kongsfeld as well. This would be Mervold ahead of Bruce Poole.
Feels a bit like a sort of 2017 era Sauber livery from Formula 1, that 14th place car. Don't know if that's just me, but
You remember that year that they signed like 5 drivers?
Sauber.
I was
Yeah.
at that Australian Grand Prix, and on Thursday there was an autograph signing session. I was like, whose autograph do I get? I don't know who's actually going to be driving the damn thing.
Yeah.
So all of them were there at the signing session.
It's not a great sign of confidence, is it, from the team and the drivers?
And then there was the year that Manor were there, but it was like, are they actually going to be able to run their car? And I think they didn't. Mervold, is that intentional? Perhaps. Bruce Poole and Steve O'Malley go by. On lap 8, Roberto Catalano has an increasing race lead over Paul Stump. Todd Scholl not too far behind him. Mike McCormick and Franz Josef Sturm completing the top 5 at the moment.
Yeah, we're seeing here, I think that, there are 2 drivers at the head and shoulders clear of the field, and Catalano is the only one of them left at the front, leading by 5 seconds. Jorgensen drove past his teammate with damage at the final corner a few moments ago, by the way. Now he's joined him in the pit lane. Barry Hills is out of the race, and Jorgensen might well be joining him soon.
So I suspect... Oh, scraps through a tiny bit of dirt. No good for the traction. Racing backwards, uphill. Stephen Alley ahead of Bruce Poole. There's a big crash for Paul Stump from second place with Kongsfeld. So lap traffic has been so difficult for second place apparently, and Paul Stump from good positions in race 1 and race 2. He's out of both of them.
It's a real shame. As we mentioned, you sort of get a second chance in this series with only one of your points scoring cap. That's never a good sign, is it? A car in front of you off the circuit. Oh my word. It's not the first time tonight we've seen lap traffic taking... Oh dear, that's a strange one, isn't it? How does Kongsfeld end up going over onto his upside down and back on his wheels again? I'm not entirely sure, but unfortunately it's not the first time we've seen lap traffic affecting one of the top guys in this race. And again, we speak about it all the time. Stay on your line, stay running your own race, and the faster cars have got to find a way past you, but unfortunately that has not been a rule that's been followed as much as it should have been tonight.
Oh, there goes his rear wing. Whew! The Norwegian space program is in full effect. Roberto Catalano's race lead is now 10 seconds over Todd Scholl in second place. Mike McCormick also elevates into a podium position. Sturm and Olsen into that top 5 as well. Russ Addy runs 6th with a chance to still try to gain more if he can. Battles for position through the field are Jack Turner and Douglas Beasley. John Payne's just gone past Jan Mervold. So from starting from 20th and then a run through the pit lane, John Payne is back into 13th spot. This is Turner ahead of Beasley. Beasley a 10th quicker last lap. Turner with a bit more push to pass left in the bank. You know who has been burning through it is Roberto Catalano. Only has 10 seconds left. We're not at the halfway point of the race yet.
Yeah. I don't know why. We'll have to ask him, because it's. I think it's clear we're going to be chatting to him at the end of the day. We'll chat to him a little bit about a little bit more. Try and dive. Sorry, into the push to pass sort of strategy that he seems to be employing here, which is very strange. A couple of drivers, as you've mentioned previously, still not using push to pass. Rosati, despite the fact that he has struggled to get past Olsen up until this point. Now, though, is the moment. Outside line for Rosati through turn 3, and he's got the pass done. He's not quite clear yet. Now he is into the top 5. That was nicely done.
There it goes. Rosati up into 5th. He was kind of aiming for a couple of these passes earlier on. They didn't quite work out, and eventually he gets it. 6 or 7 seconds behind Franz Josef Sturm. More positions are going to be difficult to come by.
The gaps ahead might be. Sorry, gaps ahead might be too much.
Pass. No way. As he's gone into 5th. Oh, Rosati for a moment disappearing. Before eventually coming back. I wonder if he'd countered some technical issues of some kind. Roberto Catalano has 3 seconds of push to pass left. He has the fastest lap of the race, a 1:12.8. So again, fastest lap of the race, not quite as quick as pole, but peak straight line speeds are up 258, 259 kilometers an hour.
It's worth mentioning that John Payne is. Oh dear, as Jerry Kerr spins out of the final corner. John Payne is back in the race again, despite his meatball flag and his pit stop earlier on. He's still making places. So he's the reason why I mentioned he's the only other driver who's actually gone into the trials, and I think he's just gone quicker than Catalano as well for the fastest lap of the race. And I think that there's points available for that. There's Jerry Kerr's spin, a familiar story for what we've seen from multiple people tonight. I think there is a bonus available for fastest lap. So if Payne can take that away from Catalano in the one that he's going to win here, it looks like Catalano, then Payne can give himself a very early nose in front in the championship.
Interesting. Olsen now got Grandy closing him up. Olsen still with his full deployment of push to pass, sitting in the bank, not using it. Very vulnerable to Rosati. It could make him vulnerable to Grandy. It could make him vulnerable to Rosati again. And then the other drivers with 150 still in the bank. Mike McCormick in 3rd. Bruce Poole in 12th. Has got John Payne just behind him. Not sure that'll last long. Gunnar Skrefsrud's got all of it. Porter Kongsfeld has all of it. Paul Stump's still got all of it. Roberto Catalano has none.
Very strange the way he's been going through the push to pass in this race so far, but there you go. It doesn't matter particularly for this one. Is that Grandy? No, sorry, it's somebody else off in the background there.
Stump a lap down as Grandy moved out of the way for Rosati to go back into 6th place.
Thankfully, it wasn't one of the guys in this battle, which is sort of through the midfield here. Not too many of them in the midfield now. A bit further behind for Eugene Clark, Jack Turner, Douglas Beasley, but then you've got the likes of John Payne, Steve O'Malley, who will surely be nose to tail pretty soon. And you'd imagine that Payne will be catching up to those midfield battles as well, maybe for 8th place before the end of the race. It'll be very, very interesting to see where he actually is able to get to before the finish.
A lot of push to pass still in his back pocket at this point of the race, and now he's going to get onto some of it. It was 101 seconds. He used 3 just there. Now up the hill, he refrains. But you can see Steve O'Malley just a couple of seconds ahead. Steve O'Malley last lap, minute 16. John Payne, 113.8. He's closing a whole bunch of these drivers multiple seconds per lap.
Despite the fact that it's a short circuit, it might sound quite severe, the multiple seconds a lap, because it's such a difficult circuit. It's very understandable as Payne goes down the inside of O'Malley here and gets up into 11th position. A nice pass from John Payne, and so he will march on again and now look up towards the top 10 maybe.
Well, it's cloudy with a chance of meatballs because apparently Jan-Erik Skrefsrud has one in 16th place. And I don't know how that's happened. Ulson in 5th. He's been caught again. He's had Russ Addy knocking on the door a couple of times. Held him back for a while, let him through. Now he's behind again, but closing and willing and able to use his push to pass. Skrefsrud enters the pit lane to get his repairs done, whatever they may be. So, yeah, this is, that's legit, isn't it?
We saw someone almost doing exactly the same in race 1.
Front left suspension is bent.
It's the thing with this car. I think we've learned very quickly tonight that it's getting on the power that's the real problem. It's not quite like the Super Formula Light in that sense. It seems to be a little bit quicker as well than the Super Formula Light's car. So similar in some ways, but just a little bit bigger, a little bit more powerful, and a little bit more difficult to drive, I think, are the other big differences.
Rather than 210 or 220 kilometers an hour, sometimes they're approaching the braking zones at 260 kilometers an hour. It does have a bit of power, a bit of speed to it. 6 laps to go. A whole bunch of gravel on the track out the final corner there. Roberto Catalano's got 12 seconds in his back pocket. Todd Scholl in second was caught by Mike McCormick by a bit of time last lap. That could be interesting. Wolf Olsen's still got to worry about Russ Addy. Quarter Kongsfell. That's reminiscent of what we saw from another driver in race 1 of just sailing on deep and wide out the corner.
Everybody else will not thank him for bringing all the gravel back onto the circuit as well, something that's remained from the previous update to the one we've just had. It's a lot better of a system for that in iRacing these days. Not a complete gravel trap on the tarmac like it was initially at times when that was first introduced, but it does still leave a bit of residue on the track when you go off and come back on again, which just would be the same in real life. Bring a little bit of that gravel onto the circuit, and it does affect these cars pretty badly. Thankfully, that particular stretch there, you can see, is far enough down the acceleration zone that it's not really a problem, and it has mostly been dragged out the way already because there's enough people in the race to be clearing a nice racing line around the circuit.
So beware any driver in second place trying to lap cars. That's Todd Scholl right now. That's what he's got to do. Sad he's gotten by Ulf Olsen for the 3rd time. Can he stay there?
Oh dear, that's a big smash of the curves there from Douglas Beasley. I was wondering why there was a bit more gravel actually, just I was talking about that on the run towards the corkscrew. I guess there's a reason. That was what happens though if you hit the curves too hard. We've seen them just being brushed in that first race and it having a bit of an effect, but if you get it wrong like that, then there will be a big consequence and Beasley ends up to the outside of the circuit. So that's a bit of a shame for him, and he will drop down outside the top 10 as a result at the expense of John Payne now.
Going to be a couple of good battles, but Roberto Catalano has a 17-second race lead. Todd Scholl ahead of McCormick. One of the ones to watch. Russ Addy ahead of Ulf Olsen, Steve O'Malley and Bruce Poole, Paul Stump and Jan Mervold, apparently. Mervold might be off there, and Paul Stump's gone up into 16th place. So Roberto Catalano was the first driver to run out of push to pass. Steve O'Malley might be the second in just a moment as he tries to keep Bruce Poole behind him.
No idea when you've got someone right behind you. But luckily for Catalano, he doesn't. And it doesn't seem to have actually affected him at all either. I think he could have done the complete opposite to what he's done today and actually not use any in this second race and still won pretty comfortably. Such is the pace that he and John Payne have shown in this car here tonight. We'll see whether it's a comfortable circuit for them both, or whether they've just taken to this car a little bit better than the rest of the field, because it's been a two-horse race tonight, really.
I mean, class of the field in other cars as well. In the Dallara F3, in the Super Formula Light, now in the IL15. Todd Scholl's gonna still have a bit of go juice left come the final couple of laps, because he's on lap 20 right now. McCormick runs just a little bit wide behind him. He's on board with McCormick, who hasn't pressed the button.
It's close. Do you remember whether he used any in race 1, or is he another one of those drivers who maybe is either electing not to as a general rule, or just actually hasn't got the button assigned at the moment?
Could be fun to see how deep into the season we go before some of these drivers realise the car has pushed the pass.
Wonder whether there'll be anybody in 12 weeks' time when we come back for the final round, or 11 weeks' time, come back for the final round at Sebring, and we'll still see people not using any of the push to pass, maybe.
Thing is, if McCormick finishes where he is now, we'll probably be speaking to him. Just not mention.
He'll realise if he watches this back again and figures out that yes, it is indeed a factor of these cars as they come through the final sector now, and they're not far away from the final lap of the race. Todd Scholl has done a good job at keeping McCormick behind. He is at a little bit of an advantage given the fact he's got that push to pass in the bank, but nevertheless he's having to soak up the pressure right now, right to the very end.
Push to pass in his back pocket. McCormick might be quicker than Scholl, but Scholl is using the push to pass tactically to try to... Mike McCormick's just pressed the push to pass. Why'd you wait till the final lap? Is it an accident?
Must be. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, he used it quite late in the straight as well.
I'm surprised. John Payne's been for an unfortunate adventure. And parked it, beached it there. It's been a very fortunate adventure for Roberto Catalano, though, because losing out on the race win in race 1, race 2, he'll manage to complete it all from pole to the race win. Roberto Catalano will get a victory at Laguna Seca.
And he slows down just enough to get those two to complete another lap there. John Payne will have to carry on for one more, even though he's slowing down drastically at the moment. There's Todd Scholl. Does a good job to hold on to second place, and well done on soaking up that pressure right at the very end, because McCormick was really laying that on him in the final laps as well. Ulf Olsen seems to have got past Rosati for a top 5 position. Rosati used a bit of push to pass to the line, but he can't really take that top 5, which he ends up losing on the last lap.
Eddie just could not hold on to 5th place whenever he got it. Barney's furiously waving the checkered flag for everyone else remaining on the lead lap. Douglas Beasley, Bruce Poole, Jan Mervold, Korte Kongsfeld are going to have to come around to see that checkered flag as well. Sad he did use all of his. Bush to pass. Steve O'Malley used all of his. Randy Shoemake had 3 seconds left. Interesting variation throughout the field. Catalano, Scholl and McCormick on our podium. Catalano's fastest lap of the race, a 12.8, but John Payne's a 12.7. John Payne will take that fastest lap of the race. There it was on lap 10. It's Roberto Catalano 1. Scholl and McCormick, Franz Josef Stum and Ulf Olsen 4th and 5th, Russ Addy in 6th, Jack Turner, Eugene Clark, Mike Brandy and Douglas Beasley was the top 10. Turner and Poole both gaining 10 positions through this race. They've got Bruce Poole to 11th position and John Payne looking like the last car on the lead lap. Steve O'Malley a lap down, Greg Garris a lap down, Shoemake, Stump and Mervold a lap down, Oyvind Anderson 2 laps down after the excitement of lap 1. Then it's crashed through it as well, sustained damage. Jerry Kerr 2 laps down, and Kongsfeld 6 laps down. Yorison, Barry Hills and JC Hay effectively retirements out of race 2 of 60 plus racing adventures from Laguna Seca. It's time to chat. Roberto Catalano joins us, and you did get that race win, Roberto.
Thank you. Thank you.
And big spender, all of your push to pass in the first half of the race.
Yes. I don't know of works push to pass. I use it to create a gap, and I was lucky.
Not able to use it to take the fastest lap of the race, though. John Payne was 1/10 of a second quicker.
Yes, I know. There are 2 things: fast lap and no incidents. I think that both for me it's impossible.
Yeah, to get both. It looks like there are a few drivers with 0 incidents. Jack Turner, Franz Josef Stum, Todd Scholl, and yourself. So well done. And with this first round completed, you'll be close in the championship with John Payne. You'll have to have a very good season, I think, if he shows up to every race.
Yes, I think that John is a very fast driver, and I have to learn from you. He did a mistake in qualifying, and in this position 20, I think it's impossible rejoin. It's only for this that I win the second match.
Well, congratulations. Good to speak with you again, and enjoy the rest of the season.
Thank you. Bye.
All podiums coming by Ewan. Let's see if you can get Todd Scholl.
Exactly, Todd Scholl, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Congrats on your first podium of the season. First things first, tell us about the new car, how you've been finding it this opening week of the iRacing season.
Hey, thank you. I love the car. You know, it's a little bit getting used to. It's got a little bit more power than the Super Formula Light car, but overall, I'm in love.
In this race, Mike McCormick was putting real pressure on you towards the very end of that race. Just what was that like to defend from in these final couple of moments as you were battling for second place there?
It was good racing. Mike was right behind me, but we had some lap traffic we had to deal with. So that Mike wasn't the problem. It was, you know, just trying to maneuver through the lap traffic. So we both got by it pretty well, but he still was a second behind. So I just had to keep running my laps and making my braking points. And luckily I was able to do that.
You were aware, by the way, that Mike actually didn't use any push to pass throughout that entire race. Did that actually occur to you at any point, or didn't you realise?
You know, I got a 10th or 2 on the front straightaway, and somewhere around lap 12 or 13, I was wondering if you guys knew how much push to pass was left. So evidently you know how much, right?
We do have the data, yeah. So
I think I had 5 seconds left. So you know, I think I had like 5 seconds left. So yeah, I needed to extinguish it. I had it, so I used it. Yeah,
I would say that's very well managed if you run out right at the line. In terms of push to pass. So congratulations on finishing second tonight, Todd, in the second race, and thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the race as well.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Todd Scholl, second place tonight in race number 2.
And from a man that had 5 seconds left of push to pass to a man who only used 5 seconds of push to pass, Mike McCormick brings home a third place.
How are y'all?
I'm pretty good. Interesting to have a new car. I'm sure for some of the drivers it's an expense and it's work and it's effort to learn a new bicycle, but it certainly makes things interesting for a new season to have a new car.
Hey, I like most of it, things about it. I don't like in mid-corner. It seems like it has a push to it. They talk about it in the forums, and you know, I wish iRacing would do something with that setup, because you know we run the standard setup, so I might have to change my driving style a little bit probably.
What other things have you noticed that are different about it? It is, I think, a bit of a bigger, more powerful car than the string of cars we've had before that have all been about sort of F3 pace. This is got a bit more muscle to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, low corners, you got to watch your throttle and everything. One thing I've noticed though is when you go off track, it's a lot more stable than the other cars.
Oh, bigger tires.
Yeah. I mean, I like everything about it. I love the sound and everything. I just wish it didn't push quite as much mid-corner. Might be just me.
You got a good qualifying of 4th. Then Paul Stump ahead of you had some issues. You found yourself on the podium position, and then still running with Todd Scholl there for second place. What extra would you need to get him?
He's generally faster than me, and my first race in qualifying, I got a little sideways in the corkscrew. In the second race, I got a 1X, so I mean I had to start way back, so I didn't want to take a chance on messing this one up. I wasn't going to push it.
Well, new car, your first podium with it. Congratulations, and hope the rest of the season goes well and you can sort out the mid-corner rotation.
Hope to see y'all again.
Go Mike McCormick joining us, our whole podium post race 2 of 60 Plus Racing Adventures, new season 38 with the Dallara IL15. Pretty exciting racing all throughout. Plenty of things for us to talk about, and we've got 2 more broadcasts of this league to come later in the season, Ewan.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be back again for the Red Bull Ring, the second European race of this calendar, just bringing us to halfway of this championship season, and then we'll be back for the finale at Sebring on the 3rd of December. Feels a very long way away at the moment, but it will come up very, very quickly indeed. Sounds like the guys are going to have a lot of fun this season with this new car. Seems like it's good fun to drive. Again, I've said it many times tonight, but it seems that perfect balance between sort of drivability and a bit of bite if you get things wrong, And also with good racing as well. I don't normally enjoy Laguna Seca racing, I must admit. Don't think it's a great circuit for wheel-to-wheel action, but we've had even good racing here tonight, so goodness knows what some of the better circuits are going to be like this season. And the Red Bull Ring here on RaceSpotTV coming up on the 22nd of October is going to be one to look forward to for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. David Haynes with Ewan O'Leary, Ramiro Agustin Cisneros in the production from RaceSpot TV. 2 races, 2 winners and a championship perfectly poised between John Payne and Roberto Catalano in the new Dallara IL15.